once we run this, we get an experience that looks like this. And so what we see is that we see a new UI and the exact same agent that we've developed, we just defined, we see it here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Open at Microsoft show. We have a very nice team here together, getting together to do like a big announcement. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Wow, we have all the time zones here. It is a big day or a big night for some people there. For me, it's a big day. And so welcome this new team, or this team that's getting together to do this big announcement. Elijah, it's up to you. Tell me what you're going to present today. What's this big announcement? Welcome, everyone.
Thanks so much for having us, George. We're super excited to be here. We really do have the dream team here today on Open at Microsoft. So we're excited. So we are super proud, excited, all the emotions to announce today the Microsoft Agent Framework. This is the framework for doing your multi-agent orchestrations here at Microsoft. We've been working really hard on this, and we're excited to bring it to the world. And we've got a lot of great features that we're going to dive into today, but we wanted to highlight just at the top that this has open standards. We have a great pipeline set up to work with Microsoft Research, and it's very, very much committed to open source and community driven, as well as ready to get into your production workflows. And so we want to give you all a little bit of context about kind of how this framework came about. Previously, we had two great frameworks. Semantic Kernel, which was very much designed for production workloads, was very much a great for all kind of heavy duty workflows that you may have, or doing multi-agent orchestration that way. And we also had AutoGen, which had come out of the Microsoft Research side of the house, was really great for quick prototypes, was very simple, and could do a lot of great things as well. And what we've tried to do is bring the best of both of these frameworks together into one unified Microsoft Agent Framework. And we're going to get into a little bit more about this. And so if we want to continue, we can also then talk about how there are different ways that we can orchestrate these multi-agent systems with Agent Framework. One is agent-driven orchestration. And for those fans of Semantic Kernel and AutoGen, you're familiar with things like the magentic pattern or the concurrent pattern. We got a lot of great multi-agent patterns. And these allow a lot of agents to be able to talk to each other. We know that while individual agents are great, multi-agents can kind of accomplish more complex tasks, and that you can orchestrate these through a lot of great patterns. We're also super excited that we're going to talk about in future videos too, to announce this workflow orchestration, which fans of Semantic Kernel Process Framework will be really excited for this one. And this allows you to combine your traditional business processes and business events with multi-agent orchestration. So here we've got a combination of agents working with traditional business processes, and you can plug in agents where it makes the most sense in those flows. And so I'm going to turn it over to Evan, who's going to talk to us a little bit more about how this looks in comparison to what we do with Semantic Kernel. Evan?
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'm going just to share here, the URL that's now on GitHub. You can leave like a star for this team, because they're working hard on this for a while. So everybody, put the hands up there for the team. Yeah, well done. And Evan, follow the link there, leave a star, and leave your comments as well. Open your issues. And don't worry that they're going to work on like a migration path for Semantic Kernel and for AutoGen as well. Evan, tell me.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm really excited to introduce the agent framework today, and also let people know they're going to be familiar patterns. One thing I'm really excited about is that in Semantic Kernel, we had lots of agents. We had lots of different choices for agents, and a lot of questions we got were, well, when do I use agent A or agent B or agent C type for my my use case? And so one thing that we've done, you can see here on the screen, is that we have the ability to create a responses agent here on the left with Semantic Kernel. It takes a couple lines of code to create a client, and then you have to make sure you have your settings, you give your instructions, and so on. Underneath, we have the very familiar chat completion agent. So it uses the AI services underneath. What we've done today is we're simplifying this and we're providing one chat agent and the ability to drop in a chat client. And so now you can stop worrying about, well, which agent do I need to use? They all have the familiar agent structure, the protocol, and then you can just drop in the chat client that you need. And so one other
Evan,
thing is, yeah, go ahead.
have you noticed that where is the kernel in the
Oh,
new
great,
framework?
great
Do we
point.
have
Yeah,
kernels?
the kernel is gone. That's an extremely good question, and we're simplifying things now by removing this kernel that needs to be passed around. And so tools can now be registered, at an agent level. Tools can be passed in at a run level, but we've simplified it. We found that the abstractions don't necessarily need the kernel like it did, in previous versions. And so that's going to be a great simplification. The one thing I do want to call out is in this second pattern below, you can actually just create an agent from a client. So you have two different patterns, ones that depend, on your coding style or your business needs, but really easy ways to get started, minimal amount of code, and probably pretty familiar. You can create the function. Here we have get weather. You can either decorate it with the AI tool decorator, or you can just pass in the function and it'll still, work as expected.
Right. I
So
think
I think,
one thing I just
yeah,
want to call out is like when you create an agent directly from client, it solves a lot of issues that we encountered. We create custom agents for each client, right? Because now we're doing this for you instead of you have to do it to figure out what the difference between the issue of the clients.
definitely. Right. So that was a big goal and a value add we wanted to bring over from Semantic Kernel, is really creating, kind of more intuitive APIs, better abstractions, easier to work with. And agents are still at the forefront of everything, and so being able to get started, with these easy abstractions is at top of mind for us.
Well, Evan, I always say people watching this and say, "Oh, that's another framework. That's a new framework." It's more than that. I think is bringing together those two frameworks, and bringing the best of them, like you said. They
Exactly.
simplified, like remove the kernel. Remember, semantic kernel was created before MCP servers and all these things, and now you just simplify and make sure that will be easier. And
Definitely.
if you're watching this, hold that Victor has some magic to show very soon here that everybody's going to love it.
Yeah, I just want to call out too that, we, from the AutoGen team, there was an amazing, SDK created, and the ability now to have both minds working on one SDK is so much more powerful. It's really, now we're able to kind of agree on these abstractions that we bring forward, and so these unique perspectives from both SDKs and having that now in one agent framework is really exciting. But
And it's a lot of fun to
it's
work
a lot of
together.
fun.
Yes.
So I also want to hear now how, what are the differences in AutoGen between AutoGen and agent framework. And so I think, Eric, can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to be looking at here?
Oh, thanks, Evan. So I'm really excited. So AutoGen has been around since the beginning of the AI ChatGPT era. So I think it itself has gone through a couple of evolutions, and the interface has changed a few times. But we eventually arrived at a pretty simple, easy to recognize and understand interface, which is you have an agent and you have tools and you put them together and it goes to work. And now let's see the agent framework. It looks pretty much the same. So we are keeping the simplicity in the new agent framework, but we added a few tricks. So first of all, agent framework, the new agent framework introduces more compatibility with different model service endpoints. And the other one is it has better support for hosted tools. So in AutoGen, this thing was not supported at the moment. And I think the most important thing is it also introduced the workflow API that the AutoGen didn't have. So if you're coming from AutoGen and you wonder, how do I get my agents to follow a predefined order of execution? Instead of fixing the prompts in your group chat, you can actually just create a workflow, and all agent will follow that order deterministically. So I think that is a biggest update, I would say, and the biggest the best thing that for AutoGen users. So I highly encourage you to check it out.
What if, what if I still wanted to work on kind of some experimental aspects, or I have an idea that I think would be good for Agent Framework? Is there support for that? Because I know AutoGen was born from a research project, and
Yeah,
is there still
totally.
ability to kind of work on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So yeah, AutoGen has a lot of great contributors. We're really thankful of all the amazing contributions and great ideas that push AutoGen forward as a community. And we welcome all of you guys to join the new community to work on the new framework together. So there's two parts to it. So one is the new framework would have a core framework to itself. Right? So this core framework will working towards more production-ready enterprise usage. But we also have a lab component. So we call it Agent Framework Lab. So in the Agent Framework Lab, we're going to introduce the amazing research that's going on in Microsoft Research. We also welcome your contribution. So you can contribute to the lab package if you have a great idea on new agent orchestration, or have a good ideas on, let's say, how do I test my agent on this new benchmark? Or how do I train my agent using reinforcement learning, right? So all of these new idea, we decided to have a nice, like a dedicated location for us to collaborate and then to experiment. So it's called Microsoft Agent Framework Lab, and it's part of the Agent Framework itself.
Very nice. That's great. Do you want to talk about some more, I guess, some more of the APIs we've been working on around, Agent Framework, and maybe some improvements even around from what AutoGen had? Do you want to say a quick few words about that, Eric?
Yeah. So on the agent abstraction side, so AutoGen has something called model context, right? So model context was used to store the message history. And it has another component called memory, which is to take external data and use that to augment the model context. So it was two separate things. But now in the Microsoft Agent Framework, we introduced the agent thread concept. So agent thread concept is much more powerful because it allows you to incorporate external memory as part of it. So agent framework will come out with supports like disk-based agent thread, and you can also hook it up with Redis or Cosmos DB for your external storage. And you can also plug in mem0, for example, or Redis for the memory component. So the agent thread concept will capture all these abstraction. And I think in this slide, it talks about short-term memory. So in that sense, the short-term memory is the chat history that the agent's working with. And also the long-term memory is something like user preferences, the past task completions. So those things are retrieved at the runtime to help agent, perform better, because it doesn't need to repeat the same mistake, or it can remember the last successful task completion so that it will repeat the same success patterns.
Yeah. And for users of Semantic Kernel, I think they'll be familiar with this agent thread, but the Python version at least never had the full implementation like the .NET version did. And so there's going to be more ways, out of the gate to start to deal, as Eric was talking about, with these short-term memories, long-term memories, memory providers. And so having these integrations like mem0 is super important, early on, so we can get feedback, help develop, make sure that, agents are using the proper context, because it can be frustrating if you're interacting with it and it loses sight of the conversation, or things get out of scope, the token scope, or, things are too large. So I think it's great that we have this early.
And Evan, just wanted to
Evan.
call out one other thing too on the roadmap. We're working really hard with the Azure AI Foundry team to be able to have agent memory inside of Foundry too. So if you want like a fully managed service, we're working on that with Foundry team to be able to store your memory there. So that's a little sneak peek into what's coming soon on the roadmap as well.
Very nice.
Nice. Evan, and maybe it's a good time to talk about, the language that's going to support me on the initial preview.
Yeah, and for initial preview, we're going to have support for Python and .NET. There is potentially other things coming in the future, on the roadmap, but right out of the gate here for this public pre-release, it'll be Python and .NET, and so definitely
That's good.
users are familiar with both SDKs for Semantic Kernel and AutoGen. That'll be familiar for them, and so we're definitely excited to have some of these new features available pretty early on. And that kind of gets us into other things that I think could be top of mind for people, wanting to use an SDK like this, because enterprise readiness is extremely important aspect of it. The ability to get tracing and have guardrails, something new. I guess new in the terms of its functionality is something we're introducing as middleware. From Semantic Kernel, we had it called filters. You'll kind of feel familiar in that sense, but augmented in the fact that you can now provide middleware at run level and at agent level. And so you can make sure you're having things like you're masking PII, or you're running certain things that need to be run as sort of a hook during your process or your operation. And definitely still focused on security, enterprise security with Azure, Microsoft Entra ID, and so on. So a lot of these things will be familiar, but we're working to improve them to make sure that really early you can have a good tracing story locally and not just in the cloud. And so that the team is really focused on this and making sure that it's a good offering. Anything you want to say, Victor,
Yeah.
Eric, about this?
I just want to point out that the user approval flows and think about like what we had in AutoGen was not fully complete in our opinion, but I think we finally got a chance to have a complete design for how human in the loop, user approval for tool calls, and workflow suspension, like all those things will be in the new framework. So I'm really excited about that.
I mean, that was also a gap in Semantic Kernel. We always had this, just provide input from the console as human in the loop, and it was like it always left more to be desired. And so I agree that getting this solved very early, and it's such an important aspect. I know in AutoGen you had a proxy agent, which was even a much better step than Semantic Kernel, and so I think this is going to solve a lot of problems for developers. And again, to get this early is really important.
Right. I think the guardrails can be implemented as middlewares. And so it's really powerful patterns. If you want to catch agents producing PI content or password or secrets, or you want to catch data switching between boundaries as agent working across different tools. So those things are critical for you to build like enterprise ready application.
Definitely. I feel like we've been hyping this up enough. Should we get into something and actually see some
Let
of
them
this
see
work?
it.
Let's do it.
Yes. So
I
for this
think
part,
there is some magic here. Do you want to share your screen, Victor?
oh yeah, so in the next couple of minutes, I'll walk through a demo, and for that demo, I'll sort of reiterate some of the similarities between AutoGen and the new agent framework, and then I'll sort of show what a simple workflow, simple agent run looks like. And so, if you have used AutoGen, you'll be super familiar with the code we have right here. The first thing is that you can represent a tool as a function. And then we provide a convenience class called the assistant agent. It has a name, a description. We can give the model client and we can give it tools as a list. And then we can run it and everything is fine. Now, if we switch over to the agent framework, you'll notice that we have the exact same or very, very similar high-level chat agent abstraction. Similarly, we can give it a name, a description, instructions, which is the equivalent of a system message. We can give it a model client. Here it's called the chat client, and we could give it tools. That's a list of tools. And once you have all of that set up, you can simply just call agent.run or agent.run stream, and you get pretty much the exact same behavior. But importantly, we know that a lot of developers just don't want to leave alone in the terminal. Most of the time, you want something interesting, something graphical to sort of interact with your application. And so as part of Agent Framework, we are sort of shipping a sample app called DevUI. And if you sort of imported the serve construct from DevUI, from Agent Framework, the DevUI, you import serve, you can sort of give it a list of entities. In this case, we've given it the agent we've created, and we give it a port number. Once we run this, we get an experience that looks like this. And so what we see is that we see a new UI and the exact same agent that we've developed, we just defined, we see it here. Now, typically, we can do things like what is the weather in SF? And as we'll expect, the agent does a model call, it does a tool call underneath, and then we see the result and all gets streamed in here. Importantly, we see that there are sort of events that are sort of called as part of that request, and we can sort of interrogate all of that there. In this case, we have open telemetry sort of set up here. And so all of the hotel spans that are emitted as part of this agent run, we can sort of investigate and sort of look into exactly what they are here. And in addition to that, if we have any tool calls, all of that sort of gets shown here. Earlier, Eric and Evan sort of alluded to the concept of threads. And so that is also fully supported in this sample app. And so every time we might switch across multiple threads, in this case, we might create a new thread. We might do things like, let's say in this case, we want to add some multimodal inputs. So I have a screenshot on my desktop, and I might say, describe the content of this image. And just as we would expect, all of this goes to the model that's sort of associated with this agent, which is GPT 4.1 mini. In this case, what I actually have is a screenshot from the Microsoft Learn page for Semantic Kernel. We see some text transcription or text extraction, just like we would expect, and all that good stuff. And so this is just an example of some of the capabilities that we have currently in Agent Framework, and also how we are essentially trying to improve on the developer experience, provide better developer ergonomics. And ideally, this experience is not only code-based, it also provides a CLI. And so if you structure your agents in a given standard and you have them organized across folders, you could run the CLI pointed at that folder, and all of the entities that we support agents workflows, they will show up in this interface. In this case, we have only a single agent, but if you had like 10 agents or 10 workflows, they'll all show up here, and you can similarly sort of interact with them. We will continue to build out the sample app to, we'll get feedback from all of you. And the goal here is to provide an experience that sort of makes it not just interesting, but easy for you to sort of build and prototype agent or multi-agent applications.
That's
Amazing.
exciting, Vito. I don't know what do you guys think?
Yes,
Put your hands
I
up.
love it.
Wow. And I
love
love
it.
it
And I-
that, all the tracing and the things that Evan was talking about, that, production ready, enterprise ready, they're going to be able to do that from day one. The developers can track these things on development side and make sure that they are ready for production. And I love it. I really
Yeah.
like it.
There's one thing I wanted to call out that you said, Victor, that I think is really important. It's around, kind of the developer ergonomics and things about Agent Framework, at least from Semantic Kernel. I think one issue we had was related to imports. You could get lost in all these different imports and not understand how to get in bring a client in. And I think in Agent Framework, we spent a lot of time designing a package structure that makes it really intuitive to have the most minimal amount of imports to get up and running with your agents. And you showed that in the code snippet you had, that we had a couple imports in that code, right?
Yep, that is correct. I think there was a time I built a tool that compared the Hello World implementation across multiple frameworks. The Semantic Kernel was there, AutoGen, both APIs, the high level and the low level API was there, as a line graph and line chain and query and all of that. And I think those types of comparisons really showcase all of the work that we've put into Agent Framework to improve developer ergonomics. I think right now, Agent Framework probably has the least lines of code just to get to run a simple agent that has the standard behaviors, memory, tools, model client. And I think it's just great for developer experience.
Definitely.
And to that point about developer experience too, we want your guys' feedback. Please open GitHub issues. Let us know in the comments below here. Open PRs. We just merged a PR from someone who found an issue the other day. So we're really committed to the open source nature of Agent Framework and really want to hear your guys' input, feedback, etc. to make this dev experience as awesome as possible. So please reach out. We also have office hours on Wednesdays, 8 a.m. Pacific time. We'll also include the link below. And we all go to those office hours. So if you have something, feel free to let us know.
Yeah, that sounds great. Do you have any last what's next for them? Like Elijah said, there's any links there? Okay, yeah, that sounds great.
Definitely.
Yeah, follow
so
the project. Follow the show as well, because we're going to bring all the videos on Agent Framework and open your issues. That Victor, the IDE, the UI that don't call IDE, let's call UI. Is a UI that I think people can help even to improve that a lot. And giving feedback, I think that's be the most important. That's why we're launching this at Open at Microsoft. I think a very exciting time. And just to finish, Evan, you promised to tell me migration. What's coming from migration? Who wants to say something about migration?
yeah, we understand that some of this could look scary in the sense that so many of you built on top of AutoGen, on top of Semantic Kernel, and you're saying, why do I have to move to this new framework? What do I get out of it? We're going to have documentation. We are going to have a migration story. We have, that work is in flight. We want to make it as seamless as possible for you. I think you've seen, and as you look through the samples in the repo, a lot of the abstractions will look similar. It's just a little bit of, different syntax. So this isn't completely, shouldn't be brand new for people. A lot of the business logic you have in your agents currently, you can bring over. And so we really want to make it, as pain-free as possible. And that's why we are spending time working on migration. And that'll land closer to, as we're in public preview, later towards GA. And so that can't promise anything today. The best we can do is, if you open issues, we can work on that, or discussions, or help show better samples. Feedback is really paramount here, and what is not clear. So, we're trying to have doc strings that show code samples, how to implement that. I think AutoGen did an amazing job in their doc strings of what do I actually do and how do I use this particular public method, things like that. And so ready to kind of hit the ground running with you in the community and help you as you need it. Victor, I think, I heard you say something about, quickly, Victor, I heard you say something about workflows. I know we barely touched on that, but what can you say around that?
Yeah, so across the presentation, you might have had us sort of refer to both autonomous agent orchestration, as well as workflows. And I think Eric mentioned that workflows are how are your path to expressing complex business logic in a more deterministic pattern. We've worked very hard on the workflow API. And even though today, demo we showed was mostly looking at single agents, I think in the future, probably in a future episode, we'll sort of walk you through the details of all of that, how you can define independent steps, represent your business problems as graphs, so to speak, and sort of figure out, just define transitions across multiple steps. And so definitely stay tuned. The link to the repos, it's open source, it's MIT licensed, very similar to AutoGen. and definitely look through it. If you have questions, which we would expect, please reach out to Open Issues, and we'd love to hear from you. Yeah.
That sounds great.
That's
Thank
great.
you so much, everyone. That's a big day for those projects and hard work that the whole team is working now on that. And together, I think we'll be bringing speed to a single project. And yeah, look forward to see you on the next video. And let's say that bring your flow, Victor. Let's bring more content around Agent Framework. See you guys soon.